In the last screencast, we began our discussion about updating documents. We covered a few of the modification operators there, but there are several other ones that we didn't get a chance to look at. So let's do that now. Most of the operators that we're going to talk about here are specifically for dealing with arrays, so we'll be working with the tags field in our links document. Let me go ahead and create a query object here so that I can easily find the nettuts link. So the first modification operator we're going to talk about is the push operator. As you can imagine, this operator is for pushing new items into an array. So we'll start with db.links.find1n, and you can see that this array of tags currently has 3, dev, code, and tutorials. So let's go ahead and use the push operator to add another one. I'm going to say db.links.update. We'll update by using the n query object. And now I want to say we want to push into the tags array the item blog. It's that simple. So we have the push operator here, and the value for this property becomes an object, which has a property name of tags and a property value of blog. Altogether, this pushes the blog object into the tags array. So let's go ahead and run that and then rerun the find one. And you can see that we now have blog as our final tag inside this tags array. If we wanted to push more than one item at once into that array, we would use the push all object. So in this case, we say we want to push all tags and we pass an array as the value for tags. And I'm just going to use numbers here. I'll just say 1 and 2, and then I'll close off those objects. And now if we rerun our query, you can see that we have 1 and 2 passed in as tags. Let me just show you for comparison what would have happened if instead of using the push all operator, I just used the push operator. Then it would have pushed that entire array as a new tag instead of each individual item as a tag. Now it's important to note that the push and push all operators don't take account of what is already in this array. So even if the element that we're pushing into the array is already in the array, it won't know that. It won't take note of that. It'll just push a second copy of it into the array. If you want your arrays to have unique values, then what you need to do is use the add to set operator. We use this operator in the same way that we use the push operator. So I can say here tags, and in this case, I'll say code. However, since it sees that the code tag is already in this array of tags, it won't actually put it in. So if we run that and then redo the find, you can see that we only have code once in here. However, if instead of code, we use the tag 3, you can see that the 3 tag was added. Now, if we wanted to uniquely add multiple items at once, we would have to replace this single value here with another object that has a property name called each. And then we pass the array to this object. So we've got a lot of nested objects going here. The way this works is we say we want to use the add to set operator on the tags field, and then we say we want to use the each operator on the tags field so that each one of these will be added with the add to set operator. So now if we go ahead and add the 1 tag and a 4 tag, you'll be able to see here when I show this array again that 4 was added because it wasn't there before, but 1 was already in this array, and therefore it didn't add a second copy of it. So that's adding items to an array inside of a document. But removing items is something you might want to do as well. So let's go ahead and see how we can do that. I'll say db.users.update with n once again, and this time we're going to use the pull operator. Once again, just like with the push operator, we have the field name as the property there, tags, and then the value is just the item that we want to pull out of the array. So in our case, I'll start with 4. And if we do that, you can see here that the last tag is now 3 instead of 4 because 4 has been removed. Now, it certainly doesn't have to be the last tag. We can pull right from the middle. So I'll go ahead and pull the 1 tag, and you can see that now the 1 tag has been taken out from between blog and 2. Now, if we want to remove multiple tags at once, we can use the, you guessed it, the pull all operator. Now I'll just change this here to an array, and in here I can say that I want to get rid of the 2 tag and the 3 tag. So I do that, and now you can see we're down to just dev code, tutorials, blog, and then this nested array here. Now, of course, I can get rid of that nested array by showing you that if we pass an array as the value when we only use the pull operator, instead of the pull all operator, that it will take that literally as being a single tag object, and now we're down to just the 4 tags that we started with. Okay, there's one more actual array operator, and that is the pop operator. We can use the pop operator to remove an item from an array without knowing the name of that item. The pop operator will remove either the first one or the last one. So db.links.update, once again, we'll update n. And this time we want to say that we want to pop an item off of the tags array. And we pass it 1 as the value, which means that we are popping from the end, which is the default value for pop. So when we pop it off the end, you can see now that we only have 3 tags instead of the 4 that we had before. However, if I want to pop off the beginning, I can pass -1 as the value of tags. And now you can see that we only have code and tutorials because we've taken the dev tag from off the front. Now there's actually another array operator, but it's pretty different from the ones that we've looked at just now. This is called the positional operator, and it's used to match an item within an array. It's a bit difficult to explain, so let me show you how it works, and I think you'll get the idea from that. Now behind the scenes here, I've actually replaced our users collection with the original users collection that we started with. So if I say db.users.findEverything, and I do want to print these prettily so that I can see exactly what's going on, you can see that here, okay, we've got John Doe, Jane Wilson, and Bob Smith, back like what we started with. And what we want to work with here are these login arrays. Now notice that inside these login arrays, we have an object that has an @date and a minutes value. Here's one that has a minutes value of 20. We also have another minutes value of 20 right down here. So the way this works is we want to find all of the users who have a minutes value of 20, and we want to update that to 30. So let's see how we can do this. db.users.find, and we want to find where logins.minutes is equal to 20. Now, I know this is going to seem a little bit weird at first, but think about what we're doing here. Remember that I said we can treat arrays as if they were single fields. So when we have an array of tags, we can just say find everything where the tags property is equal to code, and it will return every link that has the code value inside of the tags array. Well, that's all we're doing here. We're saying find inside of our logins array, and then for each object in there, find the ones that have a minutes property where the value is 20. It might look a bit weird first, thinking that logins is an array and minutes is a property on objects inside that array, but it does work. So now, what we can do is use the positional operator. What we want to do is, let's do an increment here. And what field do we want to increment? We want to increment logins.$.minutes. What this $sign is here, this is the positional operator. And it's saying that we only want to update the items inside of logins that matched our first query. So remember, there's going to be multiple values inside of logins. And just because a user matches logins.minutes equal 20 doesn't mean that every different minutes value inside of logins equals 20. So this $sign in here says that we only want to update the sub-objects inside the logins array that equal 20. So let's go ahead and say we want to increment that by 10. And we're actually going to do this for multi. So we're going to say false, and then we're going to say true. And I don't think I've forgotten any curly braces. So let's go ahead and run that. And now we can say db.users.find where logins.minutes is equal to 30. And I will go ahead and run a for each with print JSON here. And you can see here that this one at the bottom was updated from 20 to 30 in Bob Smith. And up here in John Doe, this was updated to 30 as well. Now we can do something different as well. We don't just have to increment those fields. Well, first off, let me point out that we don't even have to work specifically with the items inside of logins. For example, I could just go ahead and set a field here from random to true. Before this is going to work, I'll have to change this 20 here to 30. And now if we do this find again, you can see right down here that the Bob Smith object, because it matched this inner object here, we set random to true on the outer object, and here with John Doe as well, we set random to true on the outer object. However, we could also use set right on the inside here, so I could go ahead and say logins.$.location, for example, and I could set the location of that login to just be unknown. And now, if we go ahead and look, you can see here that this location here has been set to unknown. We've added that property right to that inside object. And right up here, we've added that property location to this object inside of logins as well. Okay, one more operator, and this is the rename operator. This operator is useful if you ever want to rename one of your fields. Let's go ahead and db.users.find, and let's find where they have a random property that is equal to true. That's the one we just added. And actually, this shouldn't be find, this should be update. And what we want to do is rename that random property to something else. So I will just call it something else literally here. Again, I will set false and true. So we do this on multiple rows. And now if we say db.users.find, you can see that right here at the bottom of the last one, we have something else is set to true. And right here on the other one, we have something else is set to true as well. So that's what the rename operator does. Straight and simple, it renames fields. So that's all of the modification operators. And you may have noticed that most of the modification operators are specifically for modifying arrays. And I think this is because updating, quote, regular fields, such as strings, numbers, dates, and the like, is usually a relatively straightforward process, probably mostly done by replacement using the set operator that we looked at last time. The special cases, of course, are with arrays, where you may be adding or removing items from those arrays. So MongoDB makes those special cases as easy as possible. Well, that's everything you need to know about updating your MongoDB documents. So in the next screencast, we're going to look at how to delete them.